Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter or email tiptoday@tipfm.com.
Welcome back to Tip Today live from Nina. Our GP, Dr. Pat Harrold, is with me. Pat, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to see you today. We're going to talk about weight loss and the sort of weight loss drugs and all of that in just a few moments' time. But do you want to just get in on that conversation around road carnage and that every 15-minute programme? And
yeah, I didn't hear about it till Leanne told me about it. Leanne is great for keeping me up to date and all kinds of things I didn't know existed, you know. Too, yeah. So I don't know. You know what I always thought, like, surely in this day and age you could automate a lot of stuff. Like, would it be that difficult if I stand in the street, I see about 4 out of every 5 people going by have a mobile phone in their hands, and would it be possible to
while driving, you mean?
While driving, up and down the streets, they're all going. If you stand at a crossroads, it's incredible. If you just had some sort of an automated thing that would just click it, photograph it, some kind of CTV camera, and put them all off the road for a month, every time. And then they'd surely buy a yoki that you can stick a magnet onto it. And I mean, it's very easy now. You can talk to your phone. I mean, without actually having to have it in your hand.
Yeah, it's interesting because we hear about drink driving and drug driving, but you think distraction. You think
distraction,
is a huge
phones,
issue.
all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, and cars are so much more powerful. But I thought we'd just get into. I was out in a driving lesson last night with my daughter Laura, and we came upon a tip. And we could just see going by slowly, nobody hurt, anything like that. But I asked her, you know, when she's doing the rules of the road and everything, do they tell you what to do when you come upon a car crash? And no, apparently. So I'll just tell you the quick version of it, because in the north of Ireland, I used to drive what was called the cardiac car. You go out to car arrests and not
heart attacks
and things, but we invariably got called to car crashes and stuff like that. So I'd be flaking around in this 4-wheel drive Subaru, and first thing is the red triangle. You stop well away from the car crash, especially in a bend or something, put on your flashers, and in your boot there'll be a red triangle. Everybody has one, or you can put up the boot in some cars, and then hopefully somebody else goes up the other end of the road, and ideally someone with a torch. Ring emergency services. If somebody is injured, don't try to move them, and especially because of the neck damages and that kind of thing. And if the engine is running, turn off the keys, and then when the emergency services come, don't get in the way.
Right.
You know, but that's it in a nutshell. Red triangle, flashing light, secure the scene is the main thing.
It's amazing it's not part of the training, isn't it?
Well, unless she didn't do that bit yet, but like she covered it very... But I mean, most people don't know those simple things.
No.
But if you had everybody's running around and looking, but like you want to secure the scene, because I once saw a pile-up, you know, a car came around and clashed, and another one and another one and another one. You know, at this stage I jumped over the hedge. I mean, I mean, you know, it was the best jump I ever did, I'd say. But it was... if you secure the scene. So there you go. That's my take on it.
Very interesting indeed. Well, you're going to talk to us about weight loss and stigma and all of this.
Well, yeah, it's so trendy at the moment, and I see yesterday Donald Trump was not that I want to be giving him any more ammunition.
Your favourite person in the whole wide world.
Stop.
Yes.
It just keeps going, doesn't it? But he was pardoning the turkey, which was supposed to be a nice little ceremony, and he managed to call, I think it was the governor of Minnesota or somewhere, a fat slob. And then there was the Miss Piggy thing a few days before.
Journalist, yeah.
And, you know, I mean, Jesus, he's not exactly Vogue Williams himself, you know, but... But there's a few things. There's weight bias. Weight bias is there's explicit. Now that's explicit with Trump telling people that there's words, you know, but there's implicit. There's the unconscious negative attitudes we all have, you know, and we don't really mean it. And then, but the worst is the internalized, self-directed, and people just who are overweight feel shame about it, they feel bad about it, they're lacking in self-confidence. And actually the worst things you can do, and it's something otherwise intelligent people do, is fat shame people. Say like, oh, you know, you shouldn't have this and all that, and you'd break the furniture and sit, you know, and you couldn't fit in my car and all this kind of stuff.
I know, yeah.
Now that's the implicit bias, but that all goes in. And one thing about doctors is we all think, should we bring up the subject? Because now in the old days, doctors were terrible for it,
Right.
and they used to start to go, oh yeah, and I'm afraid to say surgeons still do it, especially surgeons, not only surgeons, but they go away and lose 3 stone and come back to me. And then they say this awful thing called calories in, calories out, which is rubbish, because there's a whole multitude of factors involved in weight and weight gain, and there's hereditary. And don't forget, the Irish are all sort of famine survivors, but you can see it in people like South Sea Islanders and things. If they get any kind of a Western diet, they pile it on, and others don't, like the Maasai warriors and people. There's a whole thing in your brain. There's your microbiome, the gut, the microbiology of your gut. It's a lot, and there is a thing called the set point. If you've ever heard the set point, Fran, basically, and this is the reason why you should try not to stuff your kids full of food. The set point is the heaviest weight you've ever been, and your body keeps trying to turn you to that. That's the hypothesis. Wow. So if you were 16 stone one time and you're now 10, the body remembers, and it will try to regulate you back to that.
Well, that explains what happens after dieting, this yo-yo thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the yo-yo can... Now, all diets will work to an extent, provided they're some way sort of healthy. But you can change your mindset, and it's very important too. They find anyone who goes on Mounjaro, Ozempic, and thing like that. Not all, but most of them, when they stop it, put the weight back on gradually. So the thing is, they're only out a few years really. So you're which is very short in medical terms. So it's very hard to say, if you're on it, are you on it for life? But if you're on one of these injection things, it's very important to keep up your muscle mass, because if you lose 3 pounds, you lose a pound of muscle. So, and you need the muscle mass. So it's very important to do weight-bearing exercise. Have weights, literally weights, and push-ups and all that kind of stuff, just to increase it. And ideally, if you start on one of these, you will relish being fit. And you'll run around and you'll get active and you'll take up sport and you'll eat well and everything. And hopefully you get into the habit of that, because it'll take the weight.
Are they a good thing as far as you're concerned, Pat?
They can be, for the right people. Like, there's 2 absolute no-nos. One is if you have a hypersensitivity reaction. The other is if you have a family history or a personal history of medullary cancer. And there's a kind of a very rare group who have neuroendocrine tumours. But outside that, they're fine. But they're not something you buy out in a car park in Limerick. Because, like, if you've diabetic retinopathy, just for an example, it can make it much worse when you start them. So... well, a doctor would be aware of that.
Sorry, that affects your vision, doesn't it?
That affects your vision.
You mean by that?
This is for the ones with diabetes. But I just use this as an example. Gallstones and pancreatitis, they're all things that can happen. And the person selling them out the car window in Limerick, or from Facebook in Northern Ireland. I'll always pick on Limerick. Limerick and Trump. The 2 of them together. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, if you do that, they don't know this sort of thing, and you need to monitor it and keep an eye and just do the thing. I was at a doctor's meeting about this not so long ago, and one of them was very nice. She said that when she weighs people, she gets them to step up in the scales backwards, so they
won't see it.
Yeah, if they're feeling a bit appalled about it. But of the people who come in, 67% of people expect the doctor to discuss the weight and kind of hoping they will, and only 3% get hurt. And so if somebody comes in, and supposing they come in for, I don't know, ingrown toenail or something, and you say, like, do you want to discuss your weight or talk about it? We ask permission, and it might be... But the whole shame and guilt is what gets me. Somebody says, oh, God, I ate a cream bun yesterday, I shouldn't. And
but you see, I have you to be careful as well, Pat, about giving people like me, who might have a few extra pounds, giving us a get-out-of-jail-free card, because sometimes we have to shake ourselves up and say, hold on now a moment,
Yeah, I have a friend who's a doctor, and she says, my husband bet Mounjaro. He said he just He didn't feel like it, but he still had the fry every morning, and he didn't want them, but he still went and had 8 pints every night. Well, I doubt he did quite as much as...
Yes.
But she said he didn't lose a pound on it, but he was thick about it, you know.
Was he?
Yeah, he's an engineer, like, he went at it like a bull at a gate. Apparently a lot of people who start these things just say the food noise is gone, and they have to remind themselves to eat. You know,
I tried it for a while. It takes a lot. You see, if a lot of the joy you get out of life involves fine food, it kills a lot of that, which is a big chunk out of your life. You know, if you enjoy your takeaway or going out for a meal and stuff, you know,
it is. And you know, people who get the gastric surgery, they often there's a whole thing about when you get you don't. They often change their food addiction and they become compulsive gamblers or alcoholics.
So something replaces it.
Or shoplifting.
Wow.
Because they need to get a kick somewhere. And you don't get the kick from food anymore. So you get it from whatever.
Wow. And this plays into what you were saying earlier on, that there's so much complexity around why people are obese or overweight and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, the terms you use are, you can say excess or unhealthy weight. You've been on the radio now, you should know this. Pat Kenny regularly runs into trouble for calling people...
Does he?
Oh God, he had a big row with Dawn French. He slagged her off in public, and
did he?
He slagged the wrong woman. He slagged the wrong woman. I tell you, she put him in his box.
Good.
But you can say patient living with obesity, severe obesity, eating habits and physical activity, but you do not use obese or fat. So if Donald Trump is listening, you don't say that. Or an obese patient or morbidly obese, diet, big bone, chunky, hefty, they're all gone. And you know, why should people have to put up with a stigma anyway? You know,
I suppose.
I mean,
even though men are worse, I think men say the most unbelievable. Like Johnny Luby, some of the stuff he says to me, like, it's my solicitor I should be making contact with after.
Well, that's between you and Johnny Luby.
No, but I mean, he's saying about, like, if I put on a few pounds, he'll point it out to the entire listenership, you know.
Yeah, and that's not good for him.
No, I mean, it's a bit of crack. And I laugh it off. But still, at the end of the day, you're going home and thinking, maybe.
Yeah, I have several friends who I'm out with, and I see them, like, for instance, get a cup of tea and they put in 3 spoons of sugar, and, you know, the Lucasade on the road, like, they put into the shop. I mean, there was a time when you went into a petrol station, it sold petrol. And it might sell cigarettes, and now you can buy wine,
oh my God,
you can buy donuts, you can buy chips, you can buy whatever, you know. And it's...
the temptation is there.
Yeah, and processed foods. We're hardwired for processed foods. I mean, it's a mixture of...
Why are we?
Well, they found with rats that if you give them salty food, they get sick of it. If you give them sweet food, they get sick of it. And if you give them fat food, but if you give them salty, fat, sweet food, they get completely addicted.
In other words, processed food.
In other words, a burger, you know, or whatever. And ultra-processed foods. And we, you know, years ago we used to say, like, you know, the people in Tipperary were all hypothyroid because there was no iodine, because they grew their own spuds in the back garden and there was no iodine in the soil. Now your spuds come from anywhere, but your spuds are probably fried 6 times. They might even be potatoes. They could be some mushed up crap, you know. And the more of that you take, and those energy drinks, people just don't need them. They're just not good for you.
Yeah,
you know?
and they are so addictive, really, really addictive. Tell me about the likes of Ozempic and whatever the other ones are, and when they're prescribed for diabetes, do they help diabetes, or is it a case that the weight loss helps diabetes? Sorry,
well,
that's
they help
convoluted.
They
but
help
you know what I mean.
diabetes. There's a whole thing. When the food goes into your stomach and then it goes into your the next bit, you secrete a hormone, and that tells you you're full, right? That's why they're called SGLP2, but they inhibit that sort of a thing. And some people with genetic conditions just don't know they're full. They just eat and eat and eat and eat. And some dogs, I think golden retrievers, don't have one. So they will eat till whatever you give them, you know. And they're hungry all the time. But the body doesn't tell them, you know, like you've got sort of 20 minutes for you to tell you're full. So most people don't even... And that's one of the reasons why if you're eating, scrolling on the phone or something, you're full, but you haven't noticed.
Yes.
So that mindfulness eating is a great way to do it. You do it and you think, how am I now? Let do me,
Yeah.
But what was the question again? Right? Yeah.
No, I was just asking you whether the drugs we're talking about, whether they're specifically for diabetes.
It works in a multitude of ways, because if you reduce your adipose tissue, that's the fat tissue,
yes,
that in itself produces hormones and things that make you hungry.
Okay.
So the heavier you are, it kind of works on itself. So if you lose that, and then it tells you when you're full, and it works, and they originally were diabetes drugs anyway. So it's all three. They work very well.
Can they reverse diabetes? Type 2, I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
Well, anything will reverse it, but it's still, it's a bit like virginity. Once you've lost it, you've lost it. Once you're diagnosed diabetes, you have it. But your HbA1c, your average blood sugar, can be below 42.
Okay.
So you really don't have it anymore on the medication. And some people, if they lose weight and keep it off, and they can stop the medication, but they always have the potential to get back to it.
Can you prescribe it for type 1 diabetes?
They do, but that's an expert thing. We GPs don't really get into type 1s. They have to be looked after by
endocrinologist, is it?
That's for the endocrinologist, the people on insulin. Now, some type 2s are on a little bit of insulin, but you're a real insulin-dependent diabetic. And I've seen them on it, but I wouldn't get involved. And it's definitely, if you have type 1 diabetes, geez, you wouldn't be buying it out of the car window in
Limerick. Apologies to all of our many listeners in Limerick. Indeed. Pat, it's always a pleasure.
Take care,
thanks
Pat.
very much.
And be careful of Johnny Luby now. You've an answer for him.
I'll tell him you said.
I will.
Pat Harrold said.
He doesn't listen to me either. It doesn't make any difference.
Pat, thanks very much indeed. Our GP, Dr. Pat Harrold, with us this morning. We are live from Nina, and news and information is on the way.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.